This is the attempt to celebrate all of humanity, and I think that's why Hizmet is different from other religious groups. Hizmet Movement is a humanitarian civil society movement that's been around for several decades now, and it's got more than 1,000 schools, maybe almost 2,000 by now, all over the world. And in fact, I've visited a lot of these schools. I've seen them in Ethiopia, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Ethiopia, just all over the world. In fact, there's schools in Yemen, and they are doing a lot in terms of accessing the higher level of students that might not be able to get an education, and bringing them high-level education with technology and science focus. And this is something that really hasn't been done before. And so you have a religious movement called Hizmet, which just means service, carrying out these enormous educational projects at the international level as part of its religious goals. So as religious goals become humanitarian goals, become educational goals, and really at the end of the day help humankind. And so I find it I find Hizmet to be an admirable new religious movement, most definitely. As a Muslim myself, for a long time it's been sort of upsetting to see certain voices dominate the discourse. And what you see on TV, so we see Islamophobia on one side, people very angry about Islam, and then on the other side you see Muslims doing things that are, widely broadcast on TV that it's just something that as a Muslim you don't want to see that on TV. For example, in Malaysia, the Malaysian Muslims said that they don't want the Christians to use the word Allah, and that it should be not used. Or you see, or you do see some violence on the part of Muslims, Al-Qaeda or whatever. You just don't want that to be broadcast. And then suddenly you see this movement called Hizmet, and they are gaining prominence for good things. And they are making Islam look to the wider public like a religion of, not only of peace, but a religion, certainly of peace, but also of interfaith and intercultural dialogue. Sometimes the problem with allowing the extremists to have the microphone is that they have been drawing their boundaries very tightly around themselves, saying, this is what Islam is, this is what it does, and everything that's not Islam, those people are going to hell. And Hizmet comes and says, we don't want these boundary drawing processes. In fact, we want to get rid of boundaries. We would like to be able to draw boundaries around all humankind. In fact, not just humankind, but animal kind, all creations of God. And so you have what Diana Eck would call exclusivist. Diana Eck would say that Hizmet's project is inclusivist versus exclusivists. So for a long time, what we've seen on TV is exclusivist boundary drawing projects. Okay, people talking about who their people are, and everybody else is going to hell. What you should be doing, and if you're not doing that, you're going to hell. Okay? And why we shouldn't be talking to these people and why they're going to burn in hell. And Hizmet is saying the opposite. And Hizmet is a Muslim group, and we haven't heard this. In fact, there's other Muslim groups that have been saying this, but Hizmet has been particularly well positioned recently, particularly successful, perhaps because of its organizational success and people willing to donate time. Members are working very hard, sacrificing, donating time, and so you have louder voices now. And it does make me proud as a Muslim, as a scholar of Islam, and also as a religious studies scholar, to be able to see this inclusivist projects. Hizmet movement is unique because it doesn't try to carry out what we call cultural and religious particularism. And that would be the idea that your group is the best, that you have the only form of truth, that all other groups are impure, incorrect, and that they are not worthy of time, or that they're not worthy of, of learning something from them. Hizmet, in fact, says the opposite. Members reach out to learn from other peoples. They actively invite other people from different cultural backgrounds, people from different religious backgrounds to come and teach them things. So again, this is not cultural, Turkish or religious Islam particularism. This is the attempt to celebrate all of humanity, and I think that's why Hizmet is different from other religious groups. You see some of that within other religious traditions. You do, certainly. There are other groups that also have boundary dissolving projects, but I haven't seen this as actively carried out amongst the Muslim community, at least not successfully in the recent decades, certainly. Currently, what's going on is that Erdogan has attempted to close the preparatory schools in Turkey. So I feel that recently what we're seeing is somebody who, perhaps he has his plan, but his plan doesn't seem to be in the best interest of Turkey, and certainly it seems to be autocratic. I'm sensing that he's a deeply autocratic person, doesn't want to allow, he's called Hizmet a state within a state, right? Which to me is a strange characterization. Yes, Hizmet is a successful movement with a lot of influence, and in that sense does have power in Turkey. Nobody can deny that right now. But so do many organizations. There are a lot of different organizations. So to me, that's like saying that again, like the Catholics are a state within a state in America, or the Jews a state in a state within America. Those kinds of statements are really derogatory. They're pejoratives. We try to avoid saying those kinds of things because Catholics have a right to seek influence in America. Jews have a right to seek influence in America. That's how we operate here. I know in Turkey, Turkey is Turkish, and that's also fine. But it is hard for me to understand how that's democracy. How it's a form of democracy if you have Erdogan trying to silence a movement that is both religious and also humanitarian, charitable, and also has some political influence. I know it doesn't want to play an overt political role, but it has some political influence, as do all groups, all movements, all groups do. But to not acknowledge them as participants in a vibrant democracy and to try to silence them as, I find this really disappointing.